Sandro Tonali looks like he's going to be handed a 10-month ban as a result of betting on games he was involved in when he played for AC Milan.
Yeah, it's a tough one, both for the player and for Newcastle United. You know, Newcastle are fighting on all fronts this year, and they need the biggest squad they have available. And him going missing for an offence that he's been found guilty of is going to be huge. And personally, for the player as well, you know, he's come out and said that he's struggled with gambling. Gambling is an addiction; it is an illness. And I suppose when you look at his issues through that prism, you know, it's difficult for him. He obviously has a problem. You know, the industry is full of gambling. You know, his club, his team are sponsored by it, the advertising hoardings, the training kit, everything. It's a difficult one for him. But he's just got to take that on the chin now. You know, whether there'll be an amnesty, I know people talk about that for certain players that have had issues moving forward, remains to be seen. But it's a difficult one for him. Newcastle rallied, supported him, and I wish him all the best in his recovery.
Yeah, Richard, as Damien has alluded to there, his agent has come out and said that this is a problem he has. He has a gambling addiction. It's very difficult to navigate that with, I suppose, football and betting companies so intrinsically linked, but it is a big problem in football. It
is, and it's not a new problem. It's been going for 20 odd years since I started. There was players gambling back then, and there was an easy access on a telephone to go and speak to a bookie, and he will quite happily take your money off you and stuff like that. And I think there's a lot made about sort of media training and all that sort of stuff, but not that side of it. People don't teach young footballers how to deal with almost like loan sharks coming after you saying, why don't you just put a little bet on this or do this? And rather than just punish players when they've found out that they've done something, they should be educated along the way. The clubs and the betting companies themselves are really in tune together, like doling over loads of money for sponsorship and all that, but none of it goes into educating young players and footballers how to deal with what the actual rules are, what competitions you can bet on, and so forth. And I'd imagine with Tonali, like a lot of young footballers, it doesn't begin by betting on your own team. It begins with maybe American football or basketball or horse racing or something like that, and then gradually down the line you start falling into, well, I know football, I know who's playing and all that sort of stuff, and you easily get dragged down that.
It's help he needs, really, Damien. That's what Eddie Howe has said he will give him over the next few months. He'll support him. He's on the bench. We'll go through the team in a minute, but he's on the bench tonight, Sandro Tonali. How difficult is it with all this going on? This is probably going to be his last game that he's available for a long time for Newcastle.
It's huge, you know, and Rich touched on something there. He's young. He's still only 23, and his betting offences are going back a couple of years, so he's still a very young player, a young man, a young person, and it's huge for him to have to deal with that. But I think moving forward, there are players now that are suffering in silence, you know, with addiction to gambling, and they're probably terrified, they're petrified, you know, that they've bet on football because there was a blanket ban come in a number of years ago, and it must be a terribly lonely place to be, knowing that, you know, your number could be called any time and you're going to get a 10-month ban. So I think there should be help offered to these players, you know, that if you are suffering or you have an illness, that you should be able to come forward, and perhaps an amnesty for players to go and get the help they need, and they won't be retrospectively punished for incidents like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure this isn't the last that we'll hear of this